That's right, Campbell Safety Consulting. There he is, former Rough Rider quarterback, legend, Plaza of Honor member, Darian Durant.
Dallas Cowboy fan. Happy Dallas Cowboy fan after yesterday's overtime.
Absolutely.
Win.
All right,
Yes,
Darian,
sir.
let's go at it here, though. We can talk about the Cowboys later. Tyson Philpott, 238 yards. McLeod Bethel Thompson, 370 yards, throwing it around Mosaic Stadium like it was a flag football game on Saturday. Where do you see the problems in that third loss of the season for the Riders?
I mean, it was just obvious that not having Tavon Campbell and Marcus Sales out there, who are, two of the best corners in the league, not having them was just crucial. And, I'm hearing that one was a game time decision, but at the end of the day, just not having those guys and going against a veteran receiver, Philpott and Bethel Thompson back at quarterback, they knew to take advantage of that position. So I wouldn't say they threw the ball all over the Rough Riders. I would say they just threw the ball at one guy all night.
Okay, so I want to ask you this. You go into that game and maybe those two guys aren't going to go. Riders have Kerfala Exume out there who spent some time with Montreal. They might know him. They might know his footwork. They might know where he's susceptible. Are your game planning to go after that?
Absolutely. Every single chance you get an opportunity to go at him, you do it. That has to be the star on the game plan sheet. And especially with him coming from Montreal, he's a guy that they practice against every single day. They know his strengths and weaknesses. And, every single play for the most part was a double move. And they had the blueprint on him on his aggressiveness. And he bid on it every time. And we also didn't see the best ball skills in the world when the ball was in the air either. So, whatever he did in Montreal, Anthony Calvillo and this team, they had a beat on it, and they took advantage of it all night long.
Darian, we know how the score finished up, and injuries aside, because Montreal has to play desperation football, it's playoff mode for them now. I still think they win that football game because I don't think they would have changed their approach. They were going to have to sling it. How would you?
They would have had to throw the ball around, but it's a lot different going up against the interception leader in the league and another guy in Sales who is an all-star. When you're going against young guys or guys who don't really understand the game, it's totally different than when you're going against vets, and not just any vets. Like I said, guys who are at the top of the league at their position. So even though Montreal, it was destined for them, I just don't know if the game plays out the same way if you have your two starting corners in the game.
Do you see anything on that offensive line? We talked to Luke. He said they just brought more people in to stifle the Rough Riders defensive line because we can get pressure on almost everybody.
You know what? I don't know. It's so tough at this point of the season when you're bringing in other guys. You don't know if they're ready to play. You don't know what kind of shape they're in, and you don't know if they're good enough to hold up for 4 quarters. And when you're dealing with a guy playing like Trevor, it's just hard to say. So at this point in time, I don't know if you want to give guys an opportunity to play when they're coming in off the street. These games are so meaningful at this point in the season. So you have to be careful with who you let on the field, and you have to make sure that these guys are ready to go.
It looked like an incredibly physical football game. It looks like the Montreal defense, they were out. They were making life tough on A.J. Ouellette. There was times he was getting up, and I'm like, that's got to hurt. That's got to sting. Did you think that they were the more physical football team on Saturday?
I do, and I still want to give the Rough Riders credit because they did score over 30 points, and Ouellette had a solid game with 90 yards rushing. So I don't think that they just matched up with the Riders and beat them up and down the field. But a staple of Noel Thorpe is just physicality. He preaches it. He thinks that if you can out physical the opposing offense, then by the fourth quarter they'll be weak and they won't want to go as hard. So that's just a philosophy of his, and you can that every time you play Montreal. They're always going to have a physical defense. They don't build their defenses around speed. They build it around, power and strength. And this is just another tale of the style of football that Noel Thorpe likes to play.
Do you remember any games where, and I'm sure you had a number of them, where you're really watching the weather? And because it was a downpour in Regina Friday night into Saturday. For the game, for the most part, it kind of broke up. We got lucky there. What would be the mindset for both quarterbacks, offenses? Because you've been in there saying, okay, we might have to do this a little bit more. We might have to do this. Are you changing gear? Obviously, field turf nowadays. It's not like the old days on regular turf. But what goes into that and the mental gymnastics involved in that?
Well, you're always weary of the weather. I mean, in Saskatchewan, more so than rain, it's wind, right? You're hoping that you can get a day where it's not too windy and you can throw the ball for more than 2 quarters. But in rainy situations, you're not going to be able to call as much. It's going to be a game of field position. You're going to have to make sure the game can get going and be able to ball downfield. Like to. So, but with the weather being, breaking up like you stated, both teams, it didn't seem to be an issue for both teams. Both teams had the opportunities to make plays down the field, and that connection of Bethel Thompson and Philpott, they just took over the night.
Is there when you were playing, is there a game or a situation where you had a guy or a young guy or an experienced guy that you leaned on? I don't care if you name him or not, but you would have been in that same situation too. I know you're paid to win, but at a certain point, if you've just been roasting a guy, do you ever feel bad for lighting a guy up for another one and then another one? Like you're that Simpsons meme, like, enough already. He's dead. He's dead.
Yeah. I think we had a game against Calgary in 2010, and we knew that Chris Jones was a huge man-to-man guy and cover zero guy with no safety help. And, the way they matched up, they would move Dwight Anderson around the field wherever Dressler went. They would put Brandon Smith on Dressler. They would put Dwight on Getzlaff, and they would move Brandon Brown or whoever they had. But it was one matchup against Andy Fantuz, and they tried to cover him with Milt Collins, who was Milt was a great player, but he's a natural safety, right? He's not necessarily a corner. And I'm not sure what the stats were for Andy. I know he went for well over 200 yards and 3 touchdowns, sort of like, kind of what happened with Philpott. And, it's just one of those situations. That's why I can relate to this situation so well, because I remember that Calgary game like it was yesterday and we went into that game saying, look, if they're going to run around and match these guys up, then we're going to throw the ball to Andy every single time we get man-to-man. And that's what we did. And I'm pretty sure that that's what Calvillo was saying to Bethel Thompson when they saw that matchup.
But poor Milt's in a home somewhere in a rocking chair, shaking back and forth. Andy.
Yeah, I feel bad because Milt, he later on became my teammate, and we had a couple conversations about that. But in the heat of the moment, you just want to go for the kill, right? You don't care, and if it's a career day for your guys, then so be it.
Does Philpott, and you mentioned the experienced coaches they have, so probably not. But does it become a flag, a touch game, where does Philpott come back to the huddle or go to the sideline and be like, hey, sluggo all day on this guy?
Absolutely. The first couple plays, you're kind of getting a feel for the DB, seeing his tendency, seeing if he's breaking on the balls early or, whatever it is, what are his weaknesses? And when you're dealing with the coaching staff, I mean, don't forget about Jason Moss. He was a pretty good quarterback himself. Mm-hmm. And you put those two brains together with Jason and Anthony Calvillo, they're looking at these tendencies for sure. So, it's definitely the experience of the Montreal coaching staff, along with a Grey Cup champion in McLeod Bethel Thompson as well, who noticed, a huge weakness in the Rider secondary and took full advantage of it.
I think a lot of us here in Rider Nation got caught looking in the mirror at how gorgeous we are at 10-2. Yeah. And I think a lot of us thought, because we were so dominant in Montreal, with a roster that was really depleted, that this team on Saturday is a lot closer to, no Davis Alexander, to who Montreal is this season. And I think that's the wake-up call to be like, oh, okay, Montreal could be a problem. If we had to face them, like that was a Grey Cup final, like they're a problem. It's not a cakewalk. I think that's what a lot of us were having trouble with, is that we were so dominant in Montreal that, well, there's no way we were going to lose, and especially not the way we did.
Yeah, and I also think that, that start out there in Montreal for Bethel Thompson, it was one of his first. I'm not sure if it was his first or second start underneath this staff, but I think with him getting hurt and being in meetings and seeing how Anthony Calvillo calls the game and getting more of a feel for situational football, and you get these mental reps, and you say to yourself, you know what? If I'm in the game and this play is called, I'm going to read it like this, or I'm going to make this throw against this coverage. So I think weeks of him getting, the mental game behind him, it just made this game so much easier for him. And then, with the Riders' two best corners out of the game, I mean, that just made it even easier for him. But I really think that, McLeod is getting a little bit more comfortable in the system. He understands what to look for with the Anthony Calvillo system and Jason Moss system. And I think that, you said it, this Montreal team, they can make some noise going into the latter part of the season because, the defense is going to be the defense. But if the offense can kind of match the play of that defense, then, you are talking about a Grey Cup championship team.
And they've done it before. They have the blueprint. It's like, let's just get healthy, get into the playoffs, and then we ride. So definitely dangerous. I don't know, back in your day, Darren, if they have 3 bye weeks now. I don't know if you would have ever had a bye week this late in the season. It sounds like a lot of guys are sticking around. They're going fishing. They're going to some cabins around here, kind of keeping it close. Bye week coming at a good time, obviously, for guys to heal. But, what was your focus in bye week? Did you like to stick around, watch tape, kind of being in the quarterback position?
Yeah, I don't think I ever went home on a bye week. I think that it's very important for quarterbacks, especially, to kind of self-evaluate and see where you are. Look at the next part of the schedule, see what you need to do moving forward, and try to have a message for the team. You let the other guys, who don't have the responsibility, as much responsibility, you let them go and have fun and do all these other things. But as a quarterback, you want to make sure you stick around, get this extra meeting time with the coaches, get some extra film work in. It's hard to do these things when you're game planning each and every week. So to be able to just self-reflect and get in that film room and it just be you and the screen, sometimes it does wonders for you.
Looking at some of the other games over the weekend, the one that I paid particularly close attention to. Now, the Argos end up winning 31-30 on a last-second field goal. But the Toronto Argonauts and the Edmonton Eskimos are two of the most improved teams in the CFL. When they can get a little bit of defense, their offenses seem to be coming around. And Phil Daniels, who we had on a couple weeks ago, he said Toronto's problem is because they had so many new guys come in. None of them knew how to play special teams because they were new to the league, and you needed them to play special teams. And then they got to go play defense. And it's a lot to learn. But he said if they kind of get that together, and then Dinwiddie at the end of the game, he was fired up. Elks are playing well. Argos are playing well. And we play Edmonton after the bye. What did you think of that game?
Yeah, I think this Edmonton team, I think I said it last week, they're showing that they're one of the top teams in the league. If with Cody there and with them playing together like they have been. Toronto, I was never looking at as if they were a bad team. Ryan Dinwiddie's a great coach. They're the defending champs. I just think that sometimes when you, like you said, when you have so many new guys, it just takes time to build that chemistry. It takes time to get in a position where you're learning how to win and you're learning how to evaluate other teams and watch film and being in the right position each and every play. So for Toronto, I think that, they've reached a point where they have that continuity now. They've been in every single situation. They've won countless walk-off field goal games. They've scored 50 points. They've thrown for 400 or 500 yards. They've won in every single way. So, I think they'll be fine. But for Edmonton, to start the season the way they have, and then to switch quarterbacks and to be able to pick up a couple wins, and now you find yourself fighting for a playoff spot, this could be a dangerous team. So, I think the bye week is at a perfect time for the Riders. They could get healthy, get some guys back, and then go out to Edmonton, because I really think that they're going up against a dangerous team next week. All
right, Maz, you can get into your Dallas Cowboys. As we sit, the Buccaneers and Texans are tied 7-7. And we could have another score here right away. It's should have taken the over in this one. Maz, go ahead.
Listen, they pick up Jadeveon Clowney today. They win in overtime yesterday. It's never boring. You know this, Darian. It's never boring being a Cowboys fan. Yeah. So when they wander down and Dak scores and they go ahead by a touchdown, I'm like, okay, good. But then when Russ comes back with 16 seconds left and throws that touchdown, I'm like, you had to be yelling at the TV, right? You had,
of course.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, but this is kind of what we expected, though, right? We expected an explosive offense and then a defense that would give up a lot of points, but hopefully the offense scored more than the opposing team. And like I said, I think they're taking the Cincinnati Bengals approach, where we're just going to outscore you. We know we don't have the best defense in the world, and I must admit, I was kind of on board about the Micah Parsons trade and thinking that some draft picks would be a good thing for the Cowboys. But man, watching Micah Parsons play for the Packers, you kind of forgot what type of player he was, honestly, and just the way the Packers rotate that defensive line and they keep him fresh. You just see his motor, man, and maybe the Cowboys situation just wasn't good for him. I'm happy that he's with a good team, but man, looking back at this trade, I'm kind of up in the air about who won that trade, because looking at Michael Parsons, I'm just like, wow, you let that go. So it's a tough situation.
Daniel Jones, obviously MVP of the league, probably maybe a Super Bowl champ this year.
He's balling. I mean, but what does that say about these New York teams? I mean, Sam Darnold was in with the Jets. He leaves, and then he just turns into an awesome quarterback. All-pro, gets paid top dollar. And then Daniel Jones leaves the Giants, and for the first 2 games of the season, he's just looking like you said, like he's the league MVP. So maybe it's more about these New York franchises than it is about these players, because maybe just they don't know how to draft. They don't have the right people in place to put the talent in the right places. And you would think that the Giants team had a little bit more talent than Indianapolis, but maybe it's just the situation. He's comfortable. There's no pressure in Indy like it is in New York. You don't have to deal with the media. And maybe some of these things, come into play when it's time to actually play football. So he seems comfortable. He's in a good spot, and he's looking good right now.
Dallas is.
If you're I was going to say,
is the underdog in Chicago this weekend.
Yeah. If you're Joe Burrow, would you go to Bengals management and say, I will pay out of my own money to get me 5 good offensive linemen so I don't get killed every year somehow, some way? How can you spend all that much money on a quarterback, Darian, and all those receivers and nothing on your O-line? Because Joe Burrow's hurt again. He's going to be out for 3 months with turf toe. Like, they can't get out of their own way in Cincinnati. And everybody likes him. Yeah. It's a good story, but they just can't.
Yeah, back in the day when I was growing up, I used to hear stories about there being a curse in Cincinnati with the Cincinnati Bengals. And, from my time of knowing football, it just seems like they just always make the wrong decisions, right? Like they never can seem to just put together a team that can consistently compete. They'll be in and out. They'll be good one year and then horrible the next. So my thing is, I think it may be more of a front office and management thing more so than just go out and get the old linemen, because, I mean, for years you should have been building the old line up to a point where you don't have to go out and spend all this money to put the old line together. So I think in Cincy, it's just a front office problem.
All right, let's see what happened. It's interesting. Like I said, Cowboys are a dog going into Chicago.
Yeah, that sounds like one of those bets where you jump on now, and then
hammer.
Vegas will switch that line later in the week when an influx of money comes in with that, putting it on the Cowboys.
Hey, since you're a Florida resident living in Del Boca Vista, do you just do the right thing for Mike McDaniel and fire him now? He looks terrible.
Oh man,
Like, did you see him at the podium yesterday? He's a beaten
yeah,
man.
he just looks beat up.
Honestly, he doesn't look right as a human. Like, he just looks, he
Yeah.
can't even look up anymore. I feel bad for the
Yeah.
guy.
Man, when you get in situations like that, they say you age in tens, not 1 year at a time. And it just seems that way for him. And when you're dealing with all this stuff with Tyreek Hill, man, I mean, 1 week he wants to play, he's excited. He and Tua are the best of friends. And then the next week they're going at each other. And Tyreek with all this off the field stuff. I mean, it's just tons of problems that he's dealing with that team. And I know he's looking back saying, man, I was more comfortable as an offensive coordinator, because just being in charge of a franchise, it's not all that I thought it was. So, I feel bad for him. I think he's a great coach. He has a great system. But, you can put yourself in bad situations if you get the wrong players. And I think he and that Tyreek Hill relationship has just burnt him out for sure.
All right, Doubles. Thanks so much. We'll see what happens. We've got a bye week this week, so next week we'll regroup. Riders will regroup. We'll talk some NFL. We'll chat with you in 7 days.
Sounds good. Take care, guys.